The verse today is Proverbs 16 and 9. And this is one of the suggestions that I got from um, when I asked on live what scripture should I verse map. So this comes from the Old Testament, and I've done verse maps from Proverbs before, so I didn't get too deep into the book and who wrote it, because I kind of knew that Solomon, which is the wisest king, he wrote it, because Proverbs, and the way I remember that is Proverbs is just like you basically the book of wisdom. Um, and so in one of my old verse maps, I had Solomon as the author. He taught about wisdom in everyday life, wisdom of God, parents, children, neighbors, and government. Let's see if I had any more with any other notes. Y'all can see how far back it's been, how much I've been actually doing this. I started verse mapping in January. And so a lot of people ask me, how did I get into it? Why do I do it? Proverbs author. The principal author is Solomon. The Solomonic proverb in chapter 25 through 25th were edited by scribes of King Hezekiah. The theme of the book, God calls us to choose wisdom over foolishness, and it takes his help to do it. People ask me why I started verse mapping and how I got into it. And so I tell people all the time that it was something that I started at the beginning of the year because I wanted to learn the Bible more. I wanted to know it for myself. And so I looked for creative ways to study the Bible, and I found verse mapping on Pinterest. And I tried it out, and it stuck. So this is my verse map for tonight. You see it? As I said, it's coming from Proverbs 16:9. A man's heart plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps. So the section headings that this is under are in one book, which they're very different in some of the books. In one book it says Proverbs encouraging godly living, and then in another one of my translations it says contrast the upright and the wicked. So to me those seem like very different perspectives, but when I first read this, it made me think of free will automatically. So free will is a term that you'll hear, or that I often hear Christians talk about, and that's basically the right to choose. Like, God is not a puppet master. He's not somebody in heaven. Like, he's not a magician. There are no strings attached to us, and he's not making us go a certain way and making us make certain decisions. He's not a magician. He's not, like controlling our will, our every step and our every move. We have free will. We have the freedom to choose what we want to do. But this scripture, upon first reading, makes me think that, like, God is in control. And you'll hear people say that too, that God is in control. And so I just wanted to get into that a little bit. So a man's heart plans his way. And then it says, but the Lord directs his steps. So I wanted to get a good idea of the contrast of those two verbs, those two action words. We, in our hearts, we plan our steps, but God directs. We plan our way. We plan what we want to do, but God directs our steps. So the definition of the verb plan is to decide on and arrange in advance, or design or make a plan of something to be made or built. And so the contrary to that, direct is control the operation of, manage or govern, aim in a particular direction. So God has the ability to aim and guide us in a different direction, but we also have the right to choose. And so one of the notes that I wrote off to the side was, you have the option to make choices in life. It is up to you to decide whether those choices will be based off your own plans, on what you feel in your heart. And so a lot of times when we make decisions based on what's in our heart, we're coming from an emotional place. We're coming from a place of feeling, a place of flesh, our human hormones. Or we decide based on what's in our minds. Some translations say a man's heart plans this way. Some translations say a man's mind plans this way. So when you think about your mind, you think about what makes sense, what's logical. But that's contrary to having faith, because oftentimes faith does not make sense. There are numerous examples in the Bible where God called people to do things that just completely did not make sense. When Noah built the ark, it had never rained before. It said the earth was watered by like a mist and a drizzle. So like the people had never seen rain. Noah didn't know what rain was, and he just had the faith that if God told him to do something, that he was going to do it, and it was going to whatever God's plan was for it, it was going to come to fruition. So Noah building the ark completely did not make any sense at all, but he had faith, and his faith saved his life and his family's life. And so I also wanted to point to Proverbs 16:1. This is in the same chapter. It's at the beginning of the chapter. But it says, the plans and reflections of the heart belong to man, but the wise answer of the tongue is from the Lord. So wisdom comes from God, but when you're in your heart and when you have your plans and your reflections, that comes most of the time, that comes from yourself. That comes from your mind and your heart and your emotions and your flesh. But a lot of the times, I've been thinking about and studying about your flesh and your spiritual mind, your spiritual eyes versus your natural eyes and your natural body. And then another another example of free will is Adam and Eve. We talked about it last week, how God directed Adam and Eve not to eat the fruit. But at the end of the day, they still had the decision to do what they wanted to do. They still were able to listen to the serpent, get distracted by him, get convinced by him, and eat the fruit. And so I also wanted to note another scripture. Can't remember which one it is. Do not use your freedom to indulge the flesh, rather serve one another humbly in love. That's Galatians 5th chapter, 13 verse. I think this is the one. 1 Corinthians 10th chapter, 13 verse. No temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind. What's common to mankind, not God, not spirits and anything like that, but mankind. And God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, he will also provide a way out so that you can endure it. So I just wanted to encourage you that you always have a way out when your plans don't work or when your plans are against the will of God, that He'll direct your path, He'll provide a way out, He will always order your steps. And if you look in some of, like, if you look in this Bible that I have here, this is the King James version, but it's like a study Bible, and it directs you to Proverbs 19 and 21 and Jeremiah 10 and 23. And some of those talks about how the a wise man's steps are ordered by God. And so if you just follow God, you'll be in His will. But at the same time, you do have free will. So that's our verse map for the night. I hope you all have a good week and be blessed.